Thank you for tuning in to episode 15 of the Busy Fit podcast. If you missed episode 14, we dove into sustainable fat loss and how to apply it to your everyday life. Today, we'll be talking about a pretty interesting subject that I think is really important to me, my wife, and so many really of our clients and just people in general. And that's really just understanding how much exercise you really should be doing to be able to reach your goals, whether it's weight loss, gaining muscle, competing for an event, just trying to get your body composition way that makes you feel comfortable or confident, getting your energy levels up, getting your metabolism into a good place, your digestion, back to normal. And it can really affect everything from your day to day. For those of you that, have listened to this before, you probably know a little bit about who I am. I competed in college athletics and went on to coach in college athletics for 9 years. One thing that, I always try to do while, working a 60 plus hour work week was try to be as healthy as I possibly could be to be an example for my family, for my athletes, and for those around me. And, when you're working that schedule, and trying to fit in, really whatever you can health wise to make the best of it. And so many people find themselves in kind of a similar situation where they're just working a ton, they have a family life, and they're trying to balance all these things, and it's just like not fitting together. And at the time, I just wasn't making the progress that I wanted to see. I didn't like how I looked in the mirror. I was stressed out all the time. I remember, it was time for us to order gear, and they asked me what size shirts I want. And I'd always, up until, a few years prior, fit into a large really well. And, and I know some people think like, okay, like you want to go down a size. I was trying to go up a size, just for the way my body composition I wanted to look. And the frustrating thing was they asked me like, hey, like what size do you want? And I was like, I want a large. And they were like, Justin, don't you think you're a medium? And that's just because I was like, I don't like the phrase, but I was skinny fat, right? Like I was just like skinny, but I was not necessarily like the weight I wanted to be, and just overstressed, overworked, and nothing was really working. Well, at the time I was working out 8 to 10 hours a week, which that's significantly more than I'm doing now. And I just wasn't seeing any results from it. And I remember talking, just like, yeah, I feel like I'm like doing everything, but I'm not seeing any of the progress, any of the result. And we were just talking through like, yeah, it's like, I'm just so stressed, so wound up all the time, under a lot of pressure from work. Obviously had just gotten married and trying to make the best of that. And, just wasn't allowing my body to recover. And I think the topic of recovery is really interesting because I think we think about it as only being for athletes. It's like athletes need to recover. But everyday people, like we should be able to like do CrossFit and train, 5-6 days a week and, do this high intensity stuff because we're not an athlete. We're not someone who's doing the, 10, 15, 20 hours a week of training. But we're not factoring in every stressor that we have in a day. If you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is, you check your email because there's already going to be some fires to put out. And you got to get the kids rushed off to school. And as soon as you walk into work, there's 3 or 4 people asking for your attention, and, you're on the go all day and solving all these problems. And then it's like, all right, get off work at 5 o'clock. I'm going to rush over and I'm just using CrossFit as an example. Nothing's wrong with CrossFit, just using it as an example for this circumstance. Cause this is what I was doing at the time. And that was like kind of my typical day. Obviously I didn't have kids at the time, but, get off work and go straight into this high intensity class, get out of the class at 6:30, go make a quick dinner and kind of finish up some work, spend like 30 minutes with my wife, and then pack up, go to bed, and do the same thing all over again. There was like a short period where I did get stronger and I did start to make progress. And this is very common. You see with a lot of people, they'll join a gym or they'll try something that's, a new, more intense exercise program, and they will see like that acute success. But then when we think about seeing that over the long term, it starts to add up over time. They have all these stressful activities that are, raising their cortisol levels throughout the day, and they're just doing something that like adds on top of that. And so that for them, recovery becomes incredibly important. And for me, it was incredibly important. And so what I saw was my digestion was in a really bad spot. Honestly, I didn't know what I could eat or couldn't eat. And I actually cut out all broccoli, dairy, stopped drinking beer, stopped eating anything fried. And like, no matter what I did, even eating healthy, like my digestion was not in a good place. And I wasn't making the progress I want to see. And again, we're just like right along that same track of the same progress, steps along the way that we see with so many of our clients and people that come to us, where it's like they're just doing too much for what their body can handle. And that has a cumulative effect. And that's the interesting thing that people don't realize. Like, if you do the same thing, you have this stressful, job, and, you do it for 1 to 5, 10 years, and you never really allow yourself to have like true downtime from that, other than maybe like a week vacation, you're dealing with some of the like same symptoms of overtraining that you will typically see with an athlete that is training that 20 hours a week. You're having that same kind of result, not because you're doing the same amount of intensity, but more so because you are doing the intensity you are doing, but you're never allowing yourself even to get back to a baseline. You're just continually getting more broken down. And this was, kind of the point that I had gotten when I like stepped away from coaching. I was not healthy at the time. I was really in pretty bad shape overall. And I don't mean that just in like a physical sense. Like, my confidence is low because I didn't look the way I wanted to look, but I also didn't feel the way I wanted to feel. I remember I always had bags under my eyes, just stressed, reacting to things, more emotional probably than I normally am. I'm definitely an emotional person, but it definitely like was not in a healthy way for me. And I reflected a lot back on like what I needed to do to get to where I spent about a year doing somewhat similar of exercise and not really seeing any progress, and not seeing myself take any steps forward, still getting more sleep than I had been previously, but just like never really made myself feel any better. I was losing weight, losing muscle, gaining fat is the probably better way to put that. And finally, I was just realized, okay, I have to allow my body to recover. Like, maybe I am truly overtrained. That has to be the only thing, because I tried everything else. And so I took a serious step back. My wife and I started just going on regular walks. Started doing, really just kind of some light lifting, some stuff to kind of heal up some previous injuries I had, bad shoulders, bad knees, like the whole nine. Just spent time just like healing my body, letting myself sleep when I really needed it, hydrating really well, did some, anti-inflammatory foods, and kind of kept that as being a priority for me. And really over the course of the next 3 months, I wasn't exercising really at all. Like, I was walking every day. I was doing 2 to 3 workouts a week that were 20 to 30 minutes and not intense. And I remember, like, I had just finished getting home from I think I was at the store or something, and I was changing, and I looked in the mirror and it's like, I looked completely different. Like, I looked like I was starting to be healthy. I was starting to see some definition. I was oddly like building muscle. And so I had stepped on our scale, and don't get me wrong, like, the scales you have at home, they're not accurate in terms of like body fat percentage, but you can definitely see trends if you take average of it over time. I went from 21% body fat, and I think I was down to like 18.5 over the 3 months, which was really good progress, especially considering what I was doing. And so I continued doing that, and about another 3 months later, I started building back up and just saw like that, fat continually drop. And I wasn't even in like a calorie deficit. I was just building muscle. I was starting to feel better. It's really funny to me when you allow yourself to recover and to actually feel a little bit better what happens, because it was started off as a physical thing, and it really manifests into everything. Like, I know my mood started getting better. I started becoming a little bit more just like, emotionally like less up and down, just a little more kind of level regardless of what was happening. And the time we were like going through chaos, like we were moving, we were starting a business, we were, doing all this stuff, going to a new city, like no real foundation to stand on. And I was able to handle that so much better than I think I would have previously, which was a really cool thing to see. But the reason I say that is because I realized that when I take care of my health and I build that as a foundation, everything else just like builds on top of that. And that's when we started to do better in our business. The business started to take off. My wife and I became so much closer. And I became better both for like our staff and for our business and for my family and for everyone around me. And it really does take, just knowing like, do I need to back off? Do I need to actually allow my body to rest and recover? And do I need to push? And that can be a slippery slope, right? Because like we want to be consistent with exercise. We want to move in the right direction. It's so important that we're doing what our body can handle. And if we have to take a short period where we're allowing our body to truly recover, then that's really important. So you have to understand your exercise needs, understand like where you're at, understand that you don't have to be in the position you are forever. Like if you have to back off short term, doesn't mean you're always going to have to do that. And also how to do that, because I think when people hear like, hey, you have to rest, recover, they think like, okay, do nothing. Like I'm going to get lazy. I'm going to get inconsistent. I'm going to stop doing the things that are going to help me, build the habits that I tried to build for a long period of time. And I'm finally there and I'm not going to have that. I'm going to lose muscle. And, your mind just starts like rush with all these thoughts of things that can be bad about that circumstance. And so, it is really important that you have the right tools to do that correctly. And it's never just stop building exercise into your day. Like it's never, hey, like we're just going to do nothing. You're just going to like wait for your body to heal. There's always activity involved. And honestly, what's been really successful was successful for me and so many of our clients is we're going to scale back that intensity, but we're going to do it more consistently. And we're going to add in more non-active thermogenesis. We're essentially going to add in more time where we're just walking or being active without it actually being like a fully active activity, such as like running, jogging, really just like taking the time to set the same amount of time that we're going to do exercise throughout the day, but we're just doing it in a way that's actually going to allow our body to rest and recover. And sequentially, as you start to understand the signs of your body, like you start to sleep a little bit better, you have a little bit less of an afternoon slump, you do start to see that body composition come around, you slowly build on top of that. And this can be a really frustrating process for a lot of people where they think like, hey, I came to you like to lose fat. And I want to lose fat, which means I got to be working out really hard and I got to be doing like this all the time. And we have to kind of explain like, hey, hang on, like we need to get your body into a place where it's capable of consistently losing fat over time. And to do that, we have to heal your body and allow your body to, recover and be able to, operate the way it should be operating so we can efficiently lose fat. And so as we go throughout that process, the first month, it's kind of funny because, the very first thing that comes around, so they'll start to feel better. Their energy level increases. But then we obviously do like our regular, depending on the person, kind of some way that we track, because you have to track in order to improve anything you're going to do related to your health, business, or whatever it is has to be tracked. And suddenly they'll be down, that 4 to 6 pound range or 4 to 8 pound range, depending on kind of just like what they've done. And we always reflect like back and like, hey, if you were to say like what you did over the last month and you were to grade yourself in terms of what you expected you should be doing versus what you are doing on a scale of like, say F to an A, and an A being like you did everything possible, like feel it's like you're devoted your life to it and like it's all in or nothing. And they're like, well, I feel like I did like a C, like a C minus. Like I did some stuff, but I didn't feel like it like took over my life. I'm like, great, you made progress. You don't have to be at an A all the time. And a lot of times when you just do what's right for you versus the thing that makes you feel like it's right for you, you'll see success. And so many people get into like, I have to work out hard if I want to see any result. And that's just not the case. There's a time and place for that. If you want to be competitive, you want to go do the CrossFit Open or compete in, in Orange Theory and get as many splat points as you can, or if you want to, go run a Tough Mudder or anything along those lines, like, yeah, that's a different ball game. And can you still lose fat doing that? Yeah, absolutely. But like, it just is a different beast versus like being what's going to be best for your body long-term and for your health. And the major takeaway from that is if you feel like you're constantly broken down, you're not sleeping well, you're stressed all the time, high levels of anxiety, your body comp is probably not what you want it to be. You notice you're very reactive to people around you. high cortisol levels, hormonal imbalance. You're likely going to have insulin spikes throughout your day. And all those things promote fat retention. And so we have to remove that first to set you up for success. Now, how do we know if we're going through that truly and we're not just, needing to tough it out? Well, you have to listen to your body. You have to look at things like I just said. You have to look at your fatigue levels. Are you constantly being sore, or your body aches, or you have constant mood changes? What's actually going on to be able to understand, like, do I need to back off? And that can be a slippery slope, because it's easy to, if you're someone that struggles with consistency, it's easy to say, like, well, I guess I should just like not work out. And that's where I would definitely suggest to, talk to a professional about, understand, like, is this the right process for me? Because some people it's not. Some people, they may feel that way, but that may not necessarily be the case. And you have to be able to have that objective opinion of what's going on to be able to say, like, hey, this is the best thing for you. But if you're doing this fully on your own, look at your sleep quality, look at your stress levels, and look at just overall what your well-being is like at the moment, and think, do I need to add more stress and intensity onto this, or do I need to take it away? And if you follow that basic rule, you'll probably land on somewhat where you need to be. So I went through this process, and I'm definitely at the other side of it now. It's a difficult process, and we're looking at, that was 2 years ago now, and now I work out between 4 to 6 days a week, not because I have to, but because that's how I just feel the best throughout the day. Every workout's 25 to 40 minutes long. Like, they're not super long. I'm hitting the muscle groups I feel like I need to hit. But for me, it works out to be consistent more days a week. And some people it's consistent more days a week. Some people it's 3 days a week. But that's what works best for me and helps me feel good throughout the day. And so we just kind of have to break out of what we think culture and what society like wants us to do exercise wise. Like, we don't have to fit a certain mold, and fit what's right for you. And with all of our, physiology just being like a little bit different, we have to be comfortable saying, well, yes, that was great for you, but that's not going to be a great solution for me. And if you don't love it, or you don't really enjoy the process, or you don't feel good about it, or see the results, it's not something that you're going to do long term. We care so much less about doing something that's going to make you feel like you're working hard versus something that makes you feel and know that you can do it for the next 3 months, and you can do it for the next 3 years and the next 30 years. That's so much more important, because the consistency is where the results truly are at. Don't get me wrong. You can see, a significant amount of fat loss over 3 months. Anywhere between that, like 1 to 2 pounds per week is kind of that threshold. Anything that promises more than that's just like not a sustainable thing to do, and probably not a healthy thing for you to do. And it's going to break down your metabolism. But you can do that in a healthy way that sets you up for success long term. But the most important thing is it going to be something where you're going to, do it, you're going to do it for 3 months, and you're going to drop off, versus being able to be successful with that long term, be like, yeah, I can do this forever, and feel really good about it and enjoy that process. So just taking that objective approach and saying, how do I build this into what's going to be best for me, versus going off of cookie cutter process of like some app or a group fitness class or whatever it may be that's trying to fit you into a mold that you may not fit into. So just understanding how, those things impact what you want to do on a daily basis. Now, if you are someone that is trying to build muscle, for example, it can feel like you want to do a 6-day body split, and you're going to do these long sessions with higher reps, and that's where the recovery side of it comes into play as well. Because if you're not allowing your body to actually go through the phase of, okay, exercise is breaking me down, but I need a muscle growth and repair phase as well, and making sure you have ample rest between those sessions, like, you're just not going to see results. You're going to be kind of, shooting yourself in the foot, for lack of a better term, of consistently just being in that overtrained state and not being able to make progress. So I like to think about it, it's kind of like it's like, going upstairs, like there's steps along the way, but it's almost like you got to go 3 steps up, one back, 3 steps up, one back. And that's going to get you up consistently versus thinking like, I'm just going to keep trying to PR and like keep building and building and building on top of one thing after the other week after week. And there will be a point where it's like, oh, you're just not seeing progress anymore. So make sure you build in rest. It doesn't have to be, a full rest where you're not doing anything for a week, but make sure you have the proper split for you. If you're going to go 3 days on, 1 day off, like, is that the best thing given the intensity you're putting into each session? So just don't be afraid to have that objective look at like what you're doing and say, is this something that can be sustainable for you over 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, versus looking at, can I do this now? Now, if you're someone that also like used to be really fit or you used to be an athlete, it's very easy to like start to build momentum and feel really good about that process and be like, great, like let's just do more. And the next thing you know, you kind of find yourself teetering on that edge of like doing what an athlete would do. And you forget that we're trying to build something that you can do forever. Now, an athlete goes through, they'll go through a macro cycle, a microcycle, multiple times throughout a season. So they have high intensity training periods versus periods where they're like basically doing nothing. They're getting full rest. And as someone that's just trying to live their life day to day, there's no competition. You want to feel better for most of your goals that are outside of the gym or the competition floor or whatever. You just want to excel in those areas, whether that be your career, your family, your faith, anything. That's the priority. And so your workouts have to support that every single day. And the best way to do that is something that's going to be sustainable forever with a little bit less of a, undulation of, that long period of like inactivity. Someone that's competing in, a good example would be football. They may take off a solid month or 2 months or however long, they feel like they need to fully actually recover and their bodies are broken down. They're going to take that full period off. Now, as a normal functioning human being, you're probably never going to take a full period of like a month or 2 off unless it's kind of forced upon you, be it sickness or injury or something else happening. So that means that our high intensity doesn't need to be as high as if we were planning on having that really low intensity, meaning no activity at all. We want to be somewhere in the middle. Now, do we keep everything the same all the time? No, but those fluctuations need to be a lot closer to that midline versus being extremely high and extremely low. And that's where I would just suggest, if you're someone that's struggling with fat loss, muscle gain, energy levels, digestion, hormones, metabolism, anything along those lines, don't worry about getting that really high in terms of intensity, even if it makes you feel good. Try to stay a little more level and allow your body to recover a little bit better. So find balance, find a periodization that's a little bit more just consistent with your goals and what you want to accomplish, and understand the role that rest and recovery is going to play in that. And, great ways to get rest and recovery throughout the day: yoga, stretching, non-active thermogenesis, meaning that you're going to take time to just go out on a leisurely bike ride with family or go for a walk, spend time outdoors, go to the pool and just, kind of swim nice and easy. But it doesn't have to be where you're off entirely on a day. And more than likely, if you do something that's just active versus taking a day of like full rest, or just laying on the couch all day, you will feel better the day after versus just taking that time completely off, and you'll see better long-term success and feel better the day after that rest day. Now, if you are someone that's listening to this and you think, great, I just don't know what that means to me, reach out to our team, reach out to, someone, and just ask for support around that, because it can be something that's difficult for you to navigate by yourself. Also, if you were at an incredibly high intensity and say you're doing CrossFit and like you're trying to lose weight and you can't lose that last like 15, 30, 40 pounds, whatever it is, don't be afraid to like step back and not just talk to like that CrossFit coach that sees you every day and kind of has skin in the game and wants you to stay there, which is obviously for good reasons, or whatever gym you're at. Find an objective opinion and talk to them, and maybe talk to your doctor or your healthcare provider and just talk through, like, does it seem like I'm doing the right thing for me? And, and just get that objective opinion, because sometimes you do need someone that's not you to say that you need it. And to be honest, I'll never forget when I kind of realized that I needed to scale back. And it wasn't me. I had basically started doing a workout and I was squatting and I was just like, I feel like aches everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I can tell I just shouldn't hit today. So I go upstairs and I told my wife, like, yeah, I just can't have this today. And, I think you need to take like a day or two off. And my wife just goes, you need to take like a month off. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. She's like, you're just so beat down and exhausted all the time. Like, you're not going to do any better. And she's not like a, exercise physiologist or anything along those lines. She's like just someone outside of my view to be able to look at me and be like, you're just exhausted. And people will probably tell you that, and you'll probably be like, oh, like I can't listen to that. I got to keep going because I have this goal. But what they're saying may actually be helpful towards your goal. So we've been through this a lot. Both myself, my wife's going through this right now. She's going through a period where she's basically like fully backing off and doing like a lot of easy stuff to allow her body to recover, just like I did a few years ago. And it was one of the best things that I ever did for myself. And we see our clients go through it all the time, where they think they need to be, running 30 miles a week and doing 3 or 4 lifts and doing yoga sessions and all this stuff. And they think like, oh, I just got to do more. The answer is rarely more if you're already consistent, even with 3 to 4 days a week. So it's just doing the right things for you. We hope you're enjoying our show and finding value in the content we're sharing. We're super passionate about creating episodes that inform, entertain, and inspire you on your journey. So if you're loving what you hear, we truly appreciate your support in helping us grow our podcast. So if you can leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, it only takes 5 seconds. It makes a world of a difference for us. Your feedback not only encourages us to keep producing great content, but also helps others discover our show. And if you've got a friend, family member, or colleague who you feel like would benefit from listening to our podcast, please consider sharing it with them. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful, and your recommendation means the world to us. So thank you for listening today, and stay tuned for future episodes.